Hello, everyone. This is Tetrafolium, and I'm here today to talk about probably my favorite Pokemon to use in the tier right now. I've kind of gone back and forth. When I was very new to the tier, I thought Salamence would be my favorite to use, and I do like using Salamence. But as time has gone on and as I've built many teams, I find myself coming back to Celebi quite a lot. And this will be, I guess, part one of three. I don't expect me to do like consecutive Celebi videos, but I think that there's at least three videos worth of content to do on Celebi, and we're gonna take it like by the amount of attacks that Celebi uses on its sets. So this will be Celebi 1, and I will be talking about Celebi sets that use one or less attack moves on their set. To our left here, we have a fantastic fan comic from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I mean, I guess you could call this spoilers, but like, I mean, if you don't have the context, then you won't understand the spoiler. This is this is really funny. Celebi is amazing in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon 2. It's also amazing in Mystery Dungeon 1. Very, very cool to have to get through Purity Forest to get it, but I love its inclusion in Mystery Dungeon 2. I think it's so inventive, the way that they weave the time traveler element of Celebi being like the natural enemy of Dialga. Well, maybe I'll save this whole discussion for when I talk about Pokemon Mystery Dungeon at some point, but we all know that Celebi's the top in this relationship, right? Alright, let's go on. Celebi is ranked number 11 on the VR. This is a Pokemon that, for me, I would probably overrate it compared to many people. 11 for me feels a little bit lower than sometimes what it can do for you, but I do understand that there are some matchups for Celebi that it's not really doing all that much for you. Like against very passive teams, if you don't have spikes down, or if you can't keep spikes down, I should say, then like Celebi is spamming Leech Seed until it runs out of moves, and then you're kind of hard walled by everything. And sometimes the offensive Celebi sets don't get going versus like teams with Blissey and things like that if you're not able to eliminate that Blissey early. So I could understand 11. Maybe that is fair. I don't know. It's hard to say who you would put it over in this tier list unless you're like a big Zapdos hater or Salamence hater like ABR. But I don't think ABR has Celebi ranked that highly either, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But regardless, my common question for you for today, I want to know, what is your favorite legendary or mythical Pokemon? I know that there are technically two different categories of Pokemon, but there are only but so many mythicals, and I don't think anybody is saying Zarude in the comments. I like Zarude, at least competitively. As far as a mythical, it has like no aura, no sauce. I don't even know like what it. I didn't watch its movie, so. But I mean, obviously for me it's Jirachi, but Celebi might be number 2. And I'm trying to think if there's any legendary Pokemon that I would put above Celebi. Yeah, I'm not sure. Another Pokemon that I like that I feel like doesn't get mentioned a lot is Manaphy. And I don't know, maybe my type is like these smaller, Pixie-esque Pokemon. I don't know. It's my Celtic origins there, bringing me back to these woodland sprites and whatever. I don't have to justify myself to you people. Why did I say it like that? Special walls and ADV. So this is a little bit of rehashing of some things that I've done. I think this is from my Articuno video, so we're going to go through it kind of quick here. But special attackers are some of the most dangerous in ADV because they have really high speed, or I should say at least pretty high speed, decent bulk, and access to Calm Mind. The three that come to mind are Suicune, Jirachi, and Celebi, of course. And we're going to need a counter for these Pokemon, so we're going to need a special wall. And the special walls that have access to healing moves, phasing, or the move Haze, explosion, and other such means are going to be the best at helping you counter these Calm Mind users. So the three that are like the most classical platonic ideals of a special wall would be Blissey, Snorlax, and Regice. I know Regice is not as favorable in the metagame right now as it used to be. I think it's still a pretty good Pokemon. I don't necessarily know if I would consider it quite OU viable anymore, now that I've grown up a little bit as an ADV player, but I do think it has its place, and people who tell you that it's just crap are they're just haters, alright? But they're really good haters, I guess, because a lot of top players would tell you that. But on the left-hand side here, we actually have Jirachi and Celebi making a double-dipping appearance here, because they're actually both pretty decent special walls in their own right. Now, they're not necessarily as robust of special walls as your Blissey and your Snorlax, but they do have some pretty nice traits for themselves that make them good on certain types of structures. And they can also be paired decently well with a Blissey or a Snorlax. So if you want to have a little bit more meat on your special defensive core, you could add these two. And some other ones that we'll shout out are Articuno and Registeel, both of which have really nice special defense stats. Pretty good HP to go with it. Articuno is kind of nice because it's got that immunity to spikes. Registeel is nice because it's got a really good defense stat as well. And yeah, there are a lot of Pokemon that also kind of fit into this special wall category, sort of. And many of you on my Articuno video pointed it out to me that, oh, I was missing this Pokemon or this Pokemon. And yes, alright, all these Pokemon down here have really good SPDEF stats, alright? Some of them, in fact, probably are even better SPDEF walls than some of the ones I mentioned here. Umbreon is actually really good, I think, really underrated, and perhaps deserved a little bit of a mention here, but it's my video, alright? I get to choose who I want to talk about. If you want to hear about Umbreon, go watch my Umbreon video. So, I'm kind of like BKC, or I have like a BKC temperament starting out this video. Maybe I need to calm down a little bit, but actually, you know what? I don't need to calm down, because as BKC says, anger is an emotion too, and we need to respect that, alright? Hope you didn't see that right click there on accident. So, let's take a look at some of the things that each of these special walls has going for it. If you've watched my Articuno video, this is going to look very familiar, so I'm going to speed through it for those of you who are real Tetrafolium fans here, watch all my videos. I'll focus in a little bit on the left-hand side. As far as like the stat spreads go, they don't have the most impressive special defense stats, but that 100 HP is really big. Pokemon like our right-hand side, Regice, Articuno, and Registeel, are missing out on a little bit of that mixed bulk because they don't have quite as high an HP stat. Now, for Registeel, that's very well combated by its 150 physical defense, but Articuno and Regice are a little bit more, like, not bad in their physical defense, but not quite as good, and they don't have like that 100 HP stat to make up for it. Now, how big a difference is 190? Not really that big, like about 10%, but 100 HP is going to be a really important benchmark. And that's obviously because of Substitute, and if you're going to be running Substitute for any particular reason, which we may run Substitute with Celebi here, spoiler, I'm not going to run it on the set that I will show, but we will be talking about Substitute Celebi. You can maximally invest in your HP and have a substitute that cannot be broken by the fixed damage moves that deal 100 HP of damage. Primarily Seismic Toss from Blissey, but also Nightshade from Pokemon like Dusk. You'll occasionally see it on Gengar, but those are the two most prominent, and especially Seismic Toss from Blissey. So, yeah, not to say that these are two, like, demon Pokemon on the Spadef side because of the 100-100. I mean, obviously that's not as good as Blissey, not as good as Snorlax, but it does give them a little bit of a leg up, at least from the mixed side and from the substitute spamming side, as compared to our right-hand side Pokemon here. But as far as what sets these Pokemon apart, I think, is the recovery options. So Blissey, of course, has Soft-Boiled and Wish as options, which are both fantastic, and Blissey is just broken and, frankly, one of the best Pokemon in the tier. But Celebi gets Recover, which is just as good as Soft-Boiled, in fact, even better, because it has double the power points. 32 PP on Recover, you can just click that move as much as you want. Well, not really, because sometimes you'll get into like a stall versus stall matchup where the person who runs out of Recover is going to be at a big disadvantage. But for many matchups, 32 PP, you get a lot of chances to just click Recover. It's such a safe move to click. Leech Seed, also a fantastic move. I would argue Recover and Leech Seed are like top 5 moves in the game. So, like, you can't go wrong with those. Jirachi with Wish, I mean, Wish is definitely not bad. You would rather have it than not have it. But Recover is better, I would say. At least, I guess it depends on what you want to do. Wish, you can pass that to another Pokemon on your team to heal that up. But Celebi gets a little bit of that as well with Leech Seed. Not quite as potent, but a little bit different use cases. Then we have some utility moves that are really good for stopping Calm Minesweepers. In particular, our left-hand side, our Jirachi, Celebi, Blissey, all have Calm Mind themselves so they can match boosts. Now, that's not necessarily to say that they should just match boosts against any Calm Minder and eventually you win. There are some matchups where that could be the case. Like, for example, Celebi versus Raikou. Celebi is probably slightly favored. It depends on what Raikou has. If it has Crunch, that might be a problem for Celebi. But if you're matching boosts with Raikou, then your Psychic is going to be able to break Raikou's sub. If you get a Leech Seed off on the Raikou, if you happen to have all 3 of those moves together, then Raikou's in a really bad spot. It has to get an early critical hit to not lose that 1v1. Though, against something like Suicune, I mean, yes, your HP Grass will be doing a lot, but Suicune's Ice Beam can be doing a lot. If it roars you, that's not good. So, yeah, that could all be pretty bad there. But Celebi has that other option of Perish Song as well. And Perish Song is really nice at forcing these Calm Mind spam, Curse spam, whatever spam Pokemon to switch out, and is really good when paired with Spikes, because you're forcing a lot of switches, forcing these Pokemon, who most of them are grounded, to take a lot of Spikes damage on switch. So that's really, really nice. Now, I mean, if it got Explosion, that would also be really nice, and some of our Pokemon on the right side here are Snorlax, Regice, Registeel, all get Explosion, but I digress. Let's move on. So, Grass type in ADV, again, rehashing some stuff from our Sceptile video. That's what's great about my channel, is I can just keep reusing content, and yeah, but there's always a little bit of a different context. So, defensively and offensively speaking, I think that Grass is a bit subpar. Grass is nice at hitting certain threats, like your Tyranitar and especially Swampert, like the two very prominent Pokemon in the tier that you're going to be seeing a lot, so grass coverage is nice there. Though there are a lot of things that resist grass, particularly your flying types, your steel types, your dragon types, so Pokemon like Skarmory and Salamence and Metagross, Jirachi, all really tough to handle. Defensively speaking, like, it's kind of a crap show, we'll say. HP flying, a pretty common stab hidden power type that you'll see. Hidden power bug, very common coverage for a lot of physical attackers. Fire and ice are very common special attacking options for Pokemon that get them. Flamethrower, Fire Blast. You'll see that a lot on mixed Pokemon, on some special attackers that have access to them. Ice Beam, Ice Beam is one of the most common moves, or at least attacking moves that you'll see in the game. So, yeah. But you do have some nice resistances in ground, electric, water, grass itself. That's a pretty decent one. If you had all these resistances and you could cut out one of fire or ice and one of bug or flying, then honestly, grass would be a great defensive type. But because it has so many of those weaknesses, I don't think there's a great argument for it being a fantastic defensive type. But we have some other sort of complications here. Your strongest attacking move with grass type for most Pokemon that are grass type would be Giga Drain or HP Grass. HP Grass, 70 base power, 24 PP, not bad, but you would like to have the opportunity to run a coverage hidden power on a lot of these grass types, like hidden power fire or hidden power ice. If you're going to do that, though, you're going to have to settle with Giga Drain, which is 60 base power and 8 PP, so not fantastic. Now, there are some exceptions. We talked about Sceptile, who gets Leaf Blade, which is essentially HP Grass, but you don't have to mess with your IVs, and you get a slightly higher critical hit ratio. So, honestly, that's pretty good. You do also have Frenzy Plant on Venusaur and Meganium, although I don't think you would ever use it. If somebody finds a good use for it, link it down below in a replay or something. But I'm just gonna say I think that it's niche at best. But Leech Seed is really good. Leech Seed might, in fact, be the best grass-type move in the format. We're going to talk a little bit about it here. So if you've watched my Sceptile video, again, this is going to look very familiar, but I'm going to use a slightly different example to illustrate maybe where Leech Seed might not be so great to use. So how Leech Seed works is you get 12.5% of your opponent's HP per turn, and all of the damage dealt from that Leech Seed will be healed to the Pokemon whose side used Leech Seed. So that means that if the Leech Seed user switches, the Pokemon that switches in will still get the benefits of that Leech Seed. So you could, say, use Leech Seed with your Celebi, catching a Blissey switching in, and then switch to your Swampert, and if Blissey stays in, Swampert's going to get the healing from that Leech Seed. So that could be really nice. A very good way to get some chip healing for Pokemon that can't get it otherwise, or, in the case of Swampert, a Pokemon that doesn't have a good healing move for itself. So, makes it a lot more potent as a wall. But there is sort of the caveat that it depends on your opponent's HP stat. So let's take a look at the example where Celebi, who's a Pokemon with a pretty high HP stat, uses Leech Seed on Dugtrio, who's a Pokemon that has a really low HP stat. So this 211 HP Dugtrio, which is no investment, is going to take 26 damage from the Leech Seed proc. That means that Celebi is going to heal 26 HP at the end of the turn, which is going to be about 6.5% of Celebi's health, a little less, in fact. So that's not great. It's like a second leftovers tick, which is not bad. You'll take it, but it's not that impressive either. Conversely, though, if you have a Pokemon who has really low HP using the Leech Seed against a Pokemon with really high HP, like in this example where a no investment Sceptile is attacking a max HP investment Blissey, you are going to get 89 damage onto the Blissey, which means 89 HP healed to the Sceptile, which is about 31% of Sceptile's health. That means that you can substitute and take Sandstorm damage and basically heal all of that back. Now, you take a little bit extra, but if you have leftovers to offset that Sandstorm tick, then you're going to be healing more HP than you deal to yourself by using the substitute. So, Sceptile is very effective at using a strategy called Subseed, where you set a Leech Seed and then start spamming Substitute, and your opponent is going to have to switch out in order to get any progress on your Sceptile, because otherwise Sceptile is just going to be healing itself all the way back up to full, despite the fact that it is getting substitutes down. Now, I mean, that's really only that feasible against really high HP Pokemon like your Blisseys and your Snorlaxes. It's going to be less effective into your like lower HP Pokemon like, say, Jolteon, for example. But point still stands that you're going to be getting a lot of HP back if you set up correctly against, or position correctly against your opponent's higher HP Pokemon. So now we're going to talk about Celebi more specifically. And we're going to hone in on its defensive capabilities. So, Celebi's 100 base stats across the board mean that it has really good mixed bulk, frankly, and enough speed to baton pass and recover before slower wall breakers can attack it. So, it's actually pretty resilient for a Pokemon that has a lot of weaknesses, but it does have a lot of weaknesses. So let's take a look at some of the sort of situations you may find yourself in. So against physical attacks, and of course we're going to be using the utility Celebi from Smogon as a sort of demonstration of this. This is going to be one of the more common Celebi sets that you will see. So against physical attackers. So this is going to be, say, a Choice Band Tyranitar using Rock Slide. It will deal 41 to 48.5% to utility Celebi, which is actually not that bad, all things considered. Now, of course, Tyranitar commonly packs Hidden Power Bug, which is 4 times effective to Celebi, but we're going to get to that in a moment. 48% max is you're slightly likely to die to the Sandstorm after 2 Rock Slides, but it's not a very good chance. So this Celebi actually can sort of duel a Choice Band Tyranitar, and you're going to be faster than it. So you could go for your Giga Drain or your Hidden Power Grass more likely if you're using utility Celebi to sort of beat down that Tyranitar, and if it's locked into Rock Slide, it can't really beat Celebi without like a critical hit. You can always recover as well, as you will be recovering more HP than the Rock Slide is dealing, unless Rock Slide gets a critical hit, and you don't have to worry about flinch chance because you should be faster than Tyranitar, especially if it's adamant, right? So then another sort of angle, let's take a look at like Agility Metagross using Meteor Mash. It's only dealing 37 to 44-ish%, which means that it is only 99.8% likely to get the 3-hit KO after leftovers, which means that there is a chance that min rolls 3 times that Celebi will actually survive 3 Meteor Mashes. Now, that's not, I wouldn't bank on that chance, but what that does mean is that Celebi has plenty of opportunities to get a Leech Seed on Metagross, and with that Leech Seed healing factored in, Metagross is not really going to be able to reliably kill this Celebi. Now, you don't want to mess around with Metagross too much because you could get those Meteor Mash raises, and that will really offset your defensive capabilities. Also, Metagross could just go for Explosion, which should just kill Celebi. So, that's... you're playing with fire there. But, needless to say that Celebi is not a terrible switch into a Metagross Meteor Mash. Now, choice banded. It's a little bit of a different story. But, yeah, if you're in a pinch, or if you're up against a last mon agility Metagross, Celebi can help you get across the finish line there. Then let's take a look at a super effective hit. So this is an Adamant Salamence with a choice band using Hidden Power Flying into our Celebi. Deals 77 to 91%, which is a lot of damage. With 3 layers of spikes up, you're dead. You can't switch in with that Celebi. But this is kind of a testament to how bulky Celebi really can be. Now, yes, it has a lot of investment with 252 HP and 124 gold, but that's not even max, and you still live a choice-banded super effective hit from one of the highest attack stat Pokemon in the tier. So that, and after sand damage too. So it's not terrible. This could be a case where Celebi needs to figure out what Salamence is locking into for you to be able to counter it. Maybe you don't have a Pokemon that switches into any move that Salamence can go for, but you have a Pokemon that can switch into HP Flying and a Pokemon that can switch into Earthquake. So if Celebi stays in at full health, takes that HP Flying, it does a lot of damage, but you manage to live and you get your baton pass off to something like, say, Metagross. Now Metagross is threatening to just annihilate the Salamence. Now, I don't know if I would necessarily go for that play in a lot of cases, because if you don't know that Salamence's choice band, it goes for Dragon Dance, you are giving it basically a free Dragon Dance, and you're passing a -1 from the Intimidate to whatever you're switching into. So in the case of like Metagross, for example, that might not make it a very good switch in, but again, this is sort of just like in a vacuum. Maybe you were like in a situation where this could make sense. So stay with me on that. Let's not get bogged down too much in the details. Now, special attacks. So, of course, this Celebi set is going to have a little bit less special defense investment. Now, it still packs a little bit. That's 60 special defense EVs. But, you don't have that plus nature, so you should be taking a little bit more damage from special attacks. But as you'll see, all these special attacks that I list here are going to be super effective, and Celebi kind of eats them. So from a modest Zapdos using Hidden Power Ice, which you don't see super duper commonly, a lot of the Hidden Power Ice Zapdos like to run a plus speed nature so that they can be guaranteed that they're faster than Salamence. But still possible you could see a modest Hidden Power Ice. That's only dealing 38 to 45%. So not that bad. Celebi could recover loop that if it wants to. Now you could also get a Leech Seed off on the Zapdos. You're going to get decent healing because Zapdos has an okay HP stat. Not quite as good as Celebi's, but pretty close. So you get yourself about 9 to 10% per turn, in addition to your leftovers healing, in addition to anytime you go for recover. You're pretty good into Zapdos, even if it does have HP Ice. Then there's Mixed Vents, going for Fire Blast into the Celebi. It deals about 60% to 70%. So that's a lot of damage. Don't get it twisted. But, again, this is an opportunity where you could go for that Baton Pass with your Celebi, and if you have a good switch in to a Mixed Vents, say like a Suicune, then There you go. Now, I guess if you have a Suicune, especially if it's healthy, you'd be better off just hard switching to it so that you don't have to take that damage on your Celebi. But again, don't get too bogged down in the details here. Maybe you have a Regice or something that you don't want to take a Fire Blast on switch. Now, this is a really interesting calc here. 252 special attack Moltres with Fire Blast. So this is your timid Moltres. Very commonly does run Fire Blast. Is doing 88.6% to 104 to Celebi. So this is slightly, I think, in favor for Celebi to live the hit, which is kind of insane because Moltres has a really high 125 special attack stat. It's Stab, Fire Blast, and that's super effective damage on Celebi. But Celebi, about 2/3 of the time, a little bit more than that, will just live that hit. Now, what would you do with Celebi in this case? I mean, you could get a Psychic off if it's a very chipped Moltres that might be able to finish it off. You could go for a Baton Pass. You take that Fire Blast on your Celebi and then pass on to something that can't really switch into Moltres, but can threaten it. Say something like a Super Rachi, for example. It's got a Thunderbolt to smash the Moltres. Maybe, again, it's a chipped Moltres, and Thunderbolt is going to kill it. I don't know, it's like 60%. So, that, again, could be a scenario for you. Now, I don't know if I would risk that, because there's a chance you just die with the Celebi. But the fact that you can live it and get that pass off could be the difference between you having the momentum to win a mid-game, end-game situation and not. So keep that in mind. That you might need that Celebi as a spike sack later. You might be able to recover with that Celebi later, and it walls something else that it needs to take on. So, if nothing else, just get that Celebi has some pretty impressive defensive profile, despite the fact that it takes a lot of super effective hits. But you might be noticing that I'm missing the most super effective hit on Celebi, which would be a bug type move. So, yeah, Celebi has a 4 times weakness to bug thanks to its dual grass and psychic type. Hidden Power Bug is very commonly used by physical attackers, and it's in no small part due to Celebi. Now, Celebi's not the only Pokemon that gets hit by Hidden Power Bug. A lot of these Pokemon who are running Hidden Power Bug are using Rock and Ground type moves as well, so they can't hit Claydol very well with those moves. Hidden Power Bug is one of your best options to hit Claydol, but the reason why they tend to go for Bug rather than Ghost is due to Celebi. So here's kind of a I don't know if I should have made this, but it did make me laugh when I saw the finished product. So there you go. Hidden Power Bug nails Celebi is what one Smogon Pokedex strategy Pokedex writer wrote, and there you go. There's also this guy Heracross, who is probably the nastiest Pokemon for Celebi to have to contend with. It's kind of interesting because Celebi's got that Stab Psychic, which is super effective to Heracross, but Heracross's Mega Horn is just going to annihilate Celebi. I don't even think that a max defense Celebi can live Mega Horn from Heracross. So it's quite brutal. But that's not to say that Celebi is just immediately dead to every single Hidden Power Bug there is out there. Now, against, say, a +1 Tyranitar or Choice Band Aerodactyl or Marowak, yeah, you're probably dead to that a lot of the time. But even like Dugtrio, who commonly runs Choice Band, is a Pokemon that you can survive. And You might be surprised with how little investment you would need to do so. So the bulk you're going to need to survive a Choice Band Dugtrio HP bug, if the Dugtrio is Jolly, assuming it's, say, 252 attack, you only need 208 HP EVs or 104 defense EVs, and you are guaranteed to survive that. Now, I mean, that's not like including sandstorm damage and stuff like that, but like, you simply put, you will just survive that one hit, which is, that's good. You might be able to do something with that. Baton Pass some Calm Mind boosts. Go for a Giga Drain and, or an HP Grass and try to kill that Dugtrio back. Now, if the Dugtrio is adamant, you're going to need a little bit more investment. So the sort of range you want to be at would be like 252 HP, 64 defense. I think you could even get away with 248 HP and 64 defense. But if you're trying to maximize your HP for whatever reason, maybe you want some special bulk in there as well. You do need at least 64 defense EVs if you're trying to be maximal with your HP investment. You could get away with not running any HP investment and going 244 defense or 136 with a plus defense nature. I mean, that saves you a pretty good number of EVs if you're trying to do something else with your Celebi. But, needless to say, that is a lot of defense investment, and with no HP either, it's like, is that going to bite you for taking special hits? Maybe. So, yeah. All of this basically is to say that Celebi, again, even against its hardest counter, you would think which would be a bug type move, can still manage. Now let's talk about the move pool of Celebi, particularly the status moves that it gets. There are a lot of really good options here. I'm going to note that virtually every Pokemon gets Toxic and Substitute. So does Celebi. I'm not going to make special mention of it for Celebi, but Celebi is pretty good at using Substitute because of that 100 HP and Baton Pass. Toxic, I mean, there are a lot of other moves you could be using on Celebi. It's really hard to fit Toxic on there, but if you want to use Toxic, then there's nothing stopping you. Healing moves. You get Recover, Leech Seed, Heal Bell, and Rest. Now, Rest, of course, is pretty much every Pokemon gets it. It's not that special for Celebi, but kind of interesting to note. Celebi's ability, Natural Cure, cures its status every time it switches out. So if you want to use Rest, you can switch the Celebi out and it will wake up. I have seen that used before. I don't think that it's generally better than Recover. Even if you get Toxic or Paralyzed or something like that, you could just Recover, get a pretty good chunk of your HP back, then switch out and cure that status, come back in, recover again. But, I don't know, against certain Pokemon, or in certain situations, maybe Rest is a little better. Doubtful, honestly. But if you end up getting some good use out of it, or if you see some good use out of it, again, let us know in the comments below. Submit some replays or something like that. But Leech Seed, fantastic healing move. Gives you a lot of passive healing so you can stay in with your Celebi against walls that you are not necessarily that well equipped to break. Snorlax is a great example of one. But even something like a Registeel switching in, or a doesn't even have to necessarily be a wall. It could be something like a Metagross, who is more like a wall breaker, but it is a Pokemon that's a little difficult to handle if you don't have super effective coverage. So Leech Seed is good at chipping into that. Heal Bell, fantastic move, very underrated. It cures status for your entire team, so that's really, really nice to have. And Celebi doesn't have any sort of like weird restrictions with Heal Bell, I don't think, because it learns it as a level up move, so you don't have to worry about not being able to use some cool option like Wish, like Blissey gets. Now, that being said, you don't get Wish with Celebi, so not saying that this is a point in Celebi's favor over Blissey necessarily, but it is cool that you can kind of just slap Heal Bell on whatever Celebi set you want, though. Not a lot of Pokemon can do that. Stat boosting moves, you get Calm Mind, Swords Dance, Light Screen, and Reflect. So, Calm Mind is going to be a very commonly used move for Celebi. We'll dive into that a lot more when we talk about offensive Celebis in later videos. But it is also pretty good on your defensive Celebis, particularly the ones that are trying to Baton Pass. We'll discuss more about those sets later. Swords Dance is in a similar sort of boat where you can pass that +2 attack boost to something that uses it a lot more effectively. Although Celebi does have a base 100 attack stat itself, so it's not to say that it can't get some mileage out of Swords Dance. Now it doesn't really have a great physical attacking move pool to make use of, but with the right hidden power coverage, a +2 Celebi could be very dangerous. Light Screen and Reflect are great filler moves, especially on like a lead Celebi. You can get that Light Screen up against, say, a Zapdos, and now you can switch into whatever you want and not have to fear taking so much damage from that really strong Thunderbolt. Similarly with Reflect, say, if you're up against a... I'm not sure exactly what physical lead you would feel that comfortable clicking Reflect against on turn 1. Maybe Metagross, although Choice Band Metagross loves to boom on turn 1. I don't know if it would boom against lead Celebi. What would you do if you were Choice Band Metagross and you saw a lead Celebi? I think usually I would click Meteor Mash. And if you had Reflect on your Celebi, you could go for Reflect, and now that Meteor Mash is not doing all that much. So, there you go. Just be careful about the boom, though. And then here are some other moves. I've been kind of mentioning Baton Pass throughout this video. Celebi is one of the best Baton Pass users in the format. Especially now that Speed Pass is banned. Although the ban is not implemented yet, I think you have until Sunday this week. I'm recording this on the 2nd of September. So like what? Like the 7th of September might be the last day that you can use Speed Pass. Celebi does not get any sort of like speed boosting options, or at least not in its moveset. But it does have Calm Mind, it does have Swords Dance, both great moves to Baton Pass with. Perish Song, really, really good at forcing switches. It forces checkmate against last mon situations. It also is just really good at stopping a potent stat-boosting sweeper from getting too out of control. And you also have Rain Dance and Sunny Day. I don't know if you would use these options all that commonly with Celebi. Celebi already has so many great moves that you want to pack into its set that it's hard to fit Rain Dance or Sunny Day, but if you absolutely need it for your team, Celebi can provide that for you. Now, Smogon has a lot of Celebi sets. You should read this page for Celebi. It is like an entire dissertation. There's so much there. But we're going to focus in on the sets that are primarily around one or no attacking moves. So this one here, Utility, very commonly you will see it with 2 attacking moves, Psychic and Hidden Power Grass, but you can swap one or both of those moves out for Substitute, Reflect, Heal Bell, Baton Pass. Frankly, you could even do more than that. There are lots and lots of fantastic options that are not even necessarily listed on this sheet here. We're going to focus in a little bit on this EV spread, though, because it's very complicated. There's investment in almost every stat here. So the EVs on this are fashioned to survive a Choice Band Aerodactyl Hidden Power Bug and Salamance's Hidden Power Flying in the Sand, which I'm assuming is Choice Band Salamence Hidden Power Flying. based on what we saw from previous discussion. And it lets Celebi comfortably survive a hidden power bug from Dugtrio. 40 special attack EVs are required to one-shot Dugtrio, and that would be the no-bulk version of Dugtrio. And variants that are lacking the move Hidden Power Grass can go a little bit faster or a little bit more in their special defense if you would so choose. 32 speed EVs are required to outrun all Tyranitar, so that's going to get you to 244, which is faster than Jolly Tyranitar. Celebi can go for an even faster benchmark like 136 to get the jump on Adamant Heracross and most offensive Suicune sets. I have been seeing some timid Suicune on the ladder recently. I'm not a fan of that. I think that Suicune loses a lot for not investing in either its defense or its special attack, but I mean, it's your team, it's your choice, you can do whatever you want with it. With Substitute, you can opt to run 252 HP. Of course, you want max HP with Substitute so that you can survive a Seismic Toss. 64 defense and 192 speed with a timid nature to allow you to survive Adamant Dugtrio Hidden Power Bug while still outrunning timid Moltres and neutral natured Salamence, Zapdos, Flygon, Charizard, all the base 100s. This spread can help you to Baton Pass out of a significant number of taunt Gengar that are EV to survive Pursuit Tyranitar in the sand, as well as the Dragon Dance Salamence. So your defensive Gengar spread that you're very familiar with. I think that's like what 308 speed. So this speed benchmark is hitting 309 or 310. If Celebi is important as a special wall, you could have a lot of special defense investment. So kind of almost flip the defense and special defense, although you're retaining 4 more defense EVs so that you can still live that Adamant Dugtrio. This is going to help you if you need that need Celebi as a sort of special wall for your team. So all of this is basically to say that yeah, you should read up more on, especially on this set. There's so much information on Celebi there. Yeah, and if you're wanting to dive into some of the more niche options that you can do with this as the base, there are some more options for you there. SD Pass Celebi. So SD Pass is one of those Celebi sets that you will very commonly see that runs no attacks. Swords Dance, Baton Pass, Leech Seed, Recover. That's pretty common. Sometimes you could get away with running Substitute on this set. You want to do it over Leech Seed, that's an option for you. I don't think it's quite as consistent, but against certain teams that are really passive or like scared of Celebi for some reason, you can kind of get away with getting a Substitute and then going for Swords Dance and then trying to pass maybe both of those things. Though Celebi does have some options for attacking moves. You have Shadow Ball, you have Ancient Power, you have Hidden Power Fighting. You also could run Hidden Power Rock if you want slightly more damage than Ancient Power will provide for you. That's really good if you're going to like achieve some sort of benchmark with your Swords Dance Celebi, like +2 Hidden Power Rock to kill something like an Aerodactyl that you're EV to live, or something like a Zapdos maybe that can't really hit you otherwise. So could be an option for you, although most of the time with Celebi, if you're Swords Dancing, you want to pass that to something else that is going to use it more effectively. So up at the top, I want to read this because this is pretty much like as good as you can put it for what you should be doing with this set. Swords Dance Celebi's main purpose is to pivot into special attacks or passive Pokemon and Baton Pass attack boost to physically offensive teammates. Leech Seed wears down physical tanks for Baton Pass targets, for the Baton Pass target on your team, and helps to force switches so that Celebi can set up on something favorable. This set is most effective when Swords Dance has not been revealed, as Celebi can surprise a roarless Zapdos or Blissey that is sent in to stall out the Leech Seed PP, and you boost and pass to something like an Aerodactyl or Metagross, which is going to deal very well with those Pokemon. Metagross is particularly nasty because you can pass that Swords Dance to it, and if Metagross has a turn to get an Agility, well, now you have +2 attack Metagross, +2 speed. How are you going to beat that? Like, this is one of the things that made Speed Pass broken and ban-worthy. Although Swords Dance to a Choice Band Metagross can also be really nasty because that level of attack is really, really difficult to switch into. Even a resisted Pokemon is going to take a lot from Meteor Mash. Recover is going to help Celebi to function as a tank akin to its utility sets, and that will give you more opportunities to get that Swords Dance off. So that's really nice. This set is running a lot of speed investment. It's trying to outspeed Adamant Heracross. In fact, it's suggesting that you outspeed it by 2, which is going to help you to outspeed, say, like a Salamence that is trying to outspeed a Heracross. So, some more options you have for this set, though. This listed spread is going to help you survive Hidden Power Bug from Aerodactyl, as well as Choice Band Hidden Power Flying from Salamence. It also outspeeds Adamant Heracross, like I just said. But you could do a slower option with more Spadef investment if you need Celebi to be able to get a, say, like a Swords Dance off on an Ice Beam Starmie, for example. When using attacking moves, 76 attack EVs will allow Celebi to one-shot a Tyranitar and a Gengar after a boost. So if you're doing, like, say, an even faster Celebi, maybe one that is outspeeding your defensive Gengar, you're running Hidden Power Fighting and Shadow Ball, that could be something. Though, I mean, that's a very niche set, so I don't know if I would say that it's all that relevant. But you could do that if you want, and you can take some of your EVs out from your defense or your special defense, maybe even from your HP if needed. Alternatively, you can go like a really fast route to outspeed Moltres and then go for something like Ancient Power or Hidden Power Rock to kill that. It's really interesting because Moltres is a lot of times really, really comfortable switching into Celebi, but Celebi can certainly outspeed Moltres, and if it's running Ancient Power with some attack investment, like, that would just massacre Moltres. So Moltres is not quite as safe as maybe you would think. So I don't know, maybe if you have a team that is really, really trying to lure something like Moltres or Charizard in, you could go for a physical attack oriented Celebi with Ancient Power. Also, needless to say, Ancient Power has a 10% chance to get an Omni Boost, or I should say +1 to all of your attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. So you can pass that as well. That is not going to be a part of the bans, apparently, with Speed Pass. So I guess this set is somewhat preserved. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend that you try for it that hard, but I mean, it can be done. And then finally, we have the defensive CM Sweeper. So this is going to be a pretty heavily defensive investment Celebi set that is aiming to Calm Mind, Leech Seed, Recover, and win an endgame when there are no good Psychic Switch-ins left, and no good Pokemon that can break the Celebi. So Leech Seed, apart from its variety of functions shared with its role on utility sets, can help Celebi to plow past a Blissey, a Curse Snorlax, a Rest Suicune in the endgame. All of these Pokemon have pretty good special defense stats. It's really hard, even for a heavily boosted Celebi to break through them. You can get that Leech Seed off though, stave off some damage from Snorlax's returns, and then you're threatening to beat it back with your very strong Psychics. Psychic is the chosen stab move over Hidden Power Grass, as this set's attack options need to pressure threats that cannot be reliably trapped, such as Salamence, Zapdos, Moltres, and Flygon. So with this set, Dugtrio is like virtually required to trap Tyranitar, who would completely wall your Mono Psychic set. There are other ways to remove Tyranitar, but if Celebi is one of your win conditions here, you're going to want to make sure that Tyranitar is not going to be able to stop you in the endgame. So, Dugtrio, virtually required. Magneton is going to be highly recommended so that you can trap Skarmory, who would disrupt Celebi's sweep. Even with +6, Psychic is not going to be able to kill Skarmory, and Skarmory is simply going to be able to roar, or Drill Peck, or even Toxic if you're a last Mon Celebi, and that's just going to be devastating for you. So you could see this maybe on like a double trapper idea. I don't think that this is a very popular set. It might be a relic of the past, but what once was old could be new again, though. So if you have some interesting thoughts about what you could be doing here, that could be an option for you. I want to note as well that we have 20 speed investment on this Celebi. I believe that is to get to, it might be 240 or 241 speed. We're not as worried about getting to 244 because, well, we don't have a great move to hit Tyranitar anyway, so like why bother getting all the way to faster than a Jolly Tyranitar? But being faster than things like a modest Magneton or an Endeavor Pert could matter. Like being able to get that Psychic off on Endeavor Pert before it gets its substitute up, or even better, a Leech Seed on the Endeavor Pert, could be important. So watch out for that speed benchmark. And if this is not 241, if this is in fact 240, I would recommend 241 so that you can be faster than Endeavor Pert. But this is the set that I'm running here. So this is mostly in line with the investment that you saw on your CM Pass Celebi. But I'm opting to not run Calm Mind or Swords Dance or like any sort of passing or stat passing at all on the Celebi. That's not because I don't think that it's good or anything. I just kind of want to prove the point that even without stat passing, Baton Pass is a really good move. So this is the sort of set that I'm running here. It's going to be mostly specially defensive because my team does not have a traditional special defensive wall outside of Celebi. So this is going to be really nice to help in those matchups versus special attackers or mixed attackers. We have Leech Seed, Recover, so we're going to be very, very sustainable. And then Psychic is our one attacking move of choice. So with 252 HP and 64 defense, we're going to live Adamant Dugtrio, HP Bug, which would allow us to Baton Pass possibly to our own Dugtrio so we can trap and eliminate it. That could be really good. We're guaranteed to live a modest Moltres Fire Blast plus sand damage. So basically, that just goes to show you that we're going to live every unboosted special attack in the format. There is no stronger special attack in the format than modest Moltres clicking Fire Blast against a super effective target. So, like, Celebi is set. You don't have to worry about dying in one shot to a special attacker unless it's boosted or unless it gets a critical hit. Mixment's Fire Blast is unfavored to 2-hit KO the Celebi. So that's actually really, really good to know. We can get a Leech Seed off. If we hit our Leech Seed, then Mixments is really not going to be able to do much to us. We can just recover, spam. Mixments is going to run out of Fire Blasts, and then you really can't touch our Celebi anymore. And HP Ice is basically not even a super effective hit. Like, it does so little damage. Timid Zapdos, most commonly going to be Timid when it's running Hidden Power Ice, is going to deal 33.1% maximum to our Celebi, which means that we can live 3 HP Ices even in Sand. So that's kind of nice. Well, if it max rolls, then we might, or like on all 3 attacks, we might die to Sand after the 3rd one, but it's still not even favored to do that, so that's kind of cool. You might notice that I have 4 special attack EVs, and that is so that we can guarantee a 2-hit KO on Hariyama, or at least the standard Hariyama spread. If you're running my Hariyama spread from my previous video, which I know you're not, because you guys did not show up for me on that video. I'm not taking it personally or anything. That Hariyama has a little bit more special defense investment, so it actually would sometimes survive these 2 Psychics, but against that standard Hariyama spread, the knockoff one that doesn't run quite as much special defense as I put on mine, you are guaranteed to get that 2-hit KO, so that's kind of cool. Another thing I want to note here is I actually have 27 speed IVs here. You might be like, why would you not just run max speed? Like there's no reason to not do that, you would think. Well, I'm going to contend that there is kind of a reason to be a little bit slower. So with this, we're going to outspeed neutral base 65s. So like your modest Vaporeon, your Adamant Scizor, although those Pokemon don't always run max speed investment. It's possible that you might see it though, and we're gonna outspeed them by a few points. It's kind of random. We're outspeeding them by 3. We could certainly go a little bit slower, but the idea with this set actually is that we want to underspeed other Celebi so that we can get a slower Baton Pass. So if we happen to be facing another Celebi that has Baton Pass, almost all of the time we will be the slower Celebi, which means we Baton Pass second. What that means is that when that opposing Celebi goes for Baton Pass, they will switch into something. Say like maybe they were Calm Mind boosted, they're switching to their Jirachi, and I'm like, okay, I'm slower. I saw what you switched to. Now I'm going to Baton Pass, and I can get into my Dugtrio, trap that Jirachi, and kill it. So that's kind of nice. There are many other situations where that slow Baton Pass can be helpful, although I wouldn't run too slow. The reason why I'm not going all the way down like to minimum is because there are certain Pokemon that are kicking around in the particularly like the 222-ish speed tier that have really strong hidden power bugs. For example, Adamant Tyranitar very commonly runs hidden power bug, and that sits at 221 speed at maximum. So we definitely don't want to be slower than that. There are some kind of niche Pokemon like fighting types, perhaps something like a who comes to mind? I guess Machamp, if you're running a plus speed nature Machamp for some reason, could be a little bit faster than that 221 speed tier. So just to be safe, we're gonna be a little bit faster than that. We don't need to be that much slower because most other Celebi are not gonna be like reducing their speed IVs like this. But this is just a little optimization. And then you could go a little bit slower if you want to be just 1 point faster than Vaporeon. You could go to 230. If you don't respect that, because frankly, 252 speed Vaporeon with no plus speed nature is pretty rare. You could go even slower than that, but I think this speed benchmark is probably good enough. And if you use this team and you notice a lot of other people using this team on ladder, you have some room to play around with this. You can go a little slower if you want. You can go a little faster if you want. If you're scared that people are running some very strange, specific counter team running 233 speed with a hidden power bug to kill this Celebi off. So I don't know. That would be very strange. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But here's our team structure. So I've been talking about Dugtrio a lot, and of course we're going to be running a Zap Dug team with this Celebi. So both Zapdos and Celebi are going to dry pass, probably to Dugtrio, to get the elimination on Blissey, and then sometimes we will also get the elimination on Tyranitar. That's a really good one to get for this team. Heracross, Breloom, opposing Dugtrio, and then some other weakened threats. You know, Dugtrio is not just good at killing the things that it has super effective coverage for, it's also really good at killing something like a 40 HP or 40% Snorlax or a 40% Suicune, or well, maybe you need a little less than that, but or like a if you outspeed Starmie and that's taking a hit, you could kill that too. Like, there are a lot of things that you could trap and kill with Dugtrio, and this is the team that sort of gives Dugtrio the most opportunities to get kills. So we have on this team a Modest Starmie and a BKC Tar, also known as your defensive physical attacker Tar, or 4 attacks Tyranitar, to soften up opposing teams' walls. I think the pace that I'm going to share has Curse Swampert as the primary win condition. If you're using that sort of Swampert, you're going to want to play kind of conservatively with it, but it's still going to be your best thing to wall Aerodactyl. So, you know, if you're in an Aerodactyl matchup, you're going to want to be really conservative with that Swampert. Maybe try to trap that Tyranitar with Dugtrio if you can. Or you could just run a standard defensive Pert if you don't like the Curse Swampert set. I mean, the Curse Swampert set, it's not the most consistent. It is really powerful in certain situations, but I will admit that sometimes it doesn't get the job done, and you miss out on having some of that defensive investment. So that's an option for you. You can kind of go either way. And then you want to make frequent use of Baton Pass from both your Zapdos and your Celebi to maintain momentum. And even if it's not necessarily to get a Dug target, so like say you've already removed their Tyranitar and their Blissey, and they're down to like, you know, Swampert and Salamence and stuff like that. It's like Dugtrio's not going to be great into killing those things. It's still going to be important for you to keep that Baton Pass going so that you can get into good matchups to maintain momentum with this team, because you don't have like a very solid win condition, especially if you're not running CursePert. So like, you don't want to lose to an offensive Spikes team that is like has like a really potent Dragon Dancer on it, or like these rock spam teams that are designed to eliminate your rock resists and then start just using fast rock slides, get the flinches, and like just end your whole career here. But yeah, if you get nice Baton Passes, so say like Celebi Baton Passes as Salamence switches, and now you can go to Starmie, and Starmie's threatening to kill with Ice Beam. And then you can go for an aggressive switch with a Starmie, predicting them to go into, I don't know, say like a Blissey. You switch to your Dugtrio, bam, you just eliminated their Blissey right there. You can make some really nice plays with this team. This has a really high skill ceiling, I think. And this is a sample team from a player named Eden. I don't know who Eden is, but shout outs to you. And yeah, this is the evilness that Dugtrio will be presenting to us, if you believe the people who are adamant do not ban on Speed Pass, saying that Dugtrio is going to be a problem. So, well, maybe this is the team that makes it a problem. I'm not going to talk too much more about Speed Pass. We're done with politics for now. We're gonna move on to some new music here. So that was Dusk Forest from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Of course, it's the first time that you get to see Celebi, the shiny Celebi, in uh, Pokemon Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky. But now I'm gonna be playing some more Mystery Dungeon music. This is from Super Mystery Dungeon. It's called Echoes of the Mystical Forest. I don't think it has any sort of ties to Celebi, but it is a cool song, so I just wanted to play it. So we're up against Coelacanth 42. Cool name. I think Coelacanth is the name of a fish. I think I caught one in Animal Crossing, which was sick. I think you can only get it in like a thunderstorm, at least in New Horizons I'm talking about. And I was playing a lot of New Horizons around COVID when it dropped, just like everybody else. I was in college at the time, so like I didn't really have much going on, so just played the crap out of New Horizons and like just every day fishing and all that. And there was raining on my island, and I caught the Coelacanth, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But that has nothing to do with Pokemon, so let's just get into this. Lead Zapdos versus Salamence. This is a great lead for me because I have max speed Zapdos with a actually, what am I trying to say? Yeah, max speed Zapdos with Hidden Power Ice, but anticipating that my opponent is not going to risk the Salamence, I'm going to switch. And I go to Tyranitar here. Arguably, I should be going to Dugtrio. This should be a very, very easy Blissey elimination for me, but I don't know. I was wanting to feel out my opponent's team a little bit, so I actually go to Tyranitar here instead. I think this is a little bit lower on ladder, so if my opponent's playing something really unconventional, then I don't know, I might get punished for going Dugtrio. I do get a -2 Rock Slide off on this, what seems to be a Choice Banded Salamence, and I get a lot. That's a lot of damage, though. I double to Swampert, or I guess technically not double, I just hard switch to Swampert as they double to their Swampert. And this is about as good a time as any to go Celebi. So Celebi is threatening to just do something nasty to Swampert. I don't have a Grass type move though, so I will just go for Leech Seed, kind of anticipating Blissey to come in, but I catch an Aerodactyl. I'm going to hard switch to Swampert, who should take a Hidden Power whatever, probably Flying, pretty well. And then I'm going to double to Zapdos. So with this team, you want to make a lot of aggressive switches. Gengar's in. If this is a defensive Gengar, then I should outspeed it. If it's an offensive Gengar, I should still take an Ice Punch, and then I can get a Thunder Wave off, and then that cripples this Gengar. So this is really, really good for me. I'm faster, so I can go for Baton Pass. They don't switch, so I can go to my Tyranitar, who is pretty good into this Gengar. And I'm going to get a Rock Slide off. I kind of thought they would go to Swampert, but they actually opt to stay in and try to get a Will-O-Wisp. Unfortunately, they miss, but they had to get it through a flinch and a paralysis, so the odds were not super great for them to get that. They are going to switch as I get a little bit of chip damage onto this Swampert here. I'm guessing with Toxic it's a Mono Pert, but in fact it's a Ice Beam Pert, so maybe it's Mono Pert, but they replaced like Protect or Refresh with Ice Beam. That being said, I think this is not a very difficult Leech Seed click for me. If I missed and it got frozen, that could have been bad, but that didn't happen, and I'm here with a max HP Celebi, basically. Blissey comes in, which is like the most valuable Leech Seed target in the game, so I'm just going to take my Leech Seed. As I get this Aerodactyl to switch in again, I'll switch to my Swampert, who is still pretty healthy, and look at how low this Aerodactyl is. I haven't hit it with a move, and it's down to 50% just from Leech Seed. Suicune's going to come in on my Ice Beam. So full team revealed for my opponent. I can go to Celebi against this Suicune. I'm not threatening to do big damage to it, but I can Leech Seed it, which will get some pretty nice chip on it, and then depending on how I maneuver this, I might be able to finish it off with Dugtrio. I am going to go straight to Starmie, get roared out as I get into Zapdos, who's going to get a nice amount of healing there, and I can go for Thunderbolt, which should do a decent chunk of damage. but my Zapdos dies. But the Suicune is really low, and with that Leech Seed even lower, so I can Dug Trap it. So there you go. I mean, we could argue, again, that I should have taken that Dug Trap on Blissey on turn 2, but then maybe my opponent would have played a little bit more conservatively with that Suicune, trying not to allow me to get it into Dug range, and Suicune could have been pretty dangerous for my team, especially since I let it get to +2. Zapdos not able to really kill it there. So that's fine. Aerodactyl's in again. It's going to go for a double edge into my Swampert, which is kind of nasty, but I can simply go for Protect. I could have also went for my Water move. That would have been a great play there, but in either case, I could opt to go for another Protect and get some chip healing, but instead I'm going to go straight to Celebi. We're going to get a Salamence switch as I go for Leech Seed, so this Choice Banded Salamence not getting any leftovers recovery. He's going to be taking a lot of chip damage this turn. I'm going to hard switch to Tyranitar, who should be able to take whatever move that the Salamence goes for. Actually reveals Fire Blast. I have seen Choice Band Fire Blast Ments before. It's not bad because it gives you a move to hit Skarmory, but I don't know if is Fire Blast really the click there. I feel like if you're gonna go for Fire Blast against the Celebi, you should be going for HP and Flying, but what do I know? In fact, maybe this isn't a Choice Banded Salamence at all. It might be Lumberry mixed, which would be very strange. Anticipating that this is, though, a CB Fire Blast Ments, I feel like there's not very much drawback for me going for Focus Punch. And I do manage to catch a Swampert switching in, so that's really, really good damage. I can always go to Celebi versus the Swampert, and I can get a Leech Seed to get some more chip on this Aerodactyl. Unfortunately, I missed that one. I'm bound to miss one eventually. I managed to get Tyranitar in on the double edge, which is a really nice call by me. They're going to opt to sack Salamence here to the Rock Slide, and even if I missed, it would have died to Sandstorm. Now Swampert will come in. I will go to Celebi, and my opponent is never making a double from Swampert, as I very, very stubbornly keep going to Celebi. So, I don't know. Maybe they should be adapting there. They are going to opt to stay in and get a Toxic on my Celebi as I get Leech Seed on the Swampert. Don't know if that's the best play, because now I can go for Baton Pass, and this is where I get the Dug Trap on the Blissey. Now, Beat Up, for those of you who don't know how it works, it is based on the base attack stats of all of your other Pokemon. Doesn't matter if they're invested in their attack at all, doesn't matter if they have minus nature or Choice Band or anything. The only thing that matters is the base attack of all of your Pokemon, and I think whether Dugtrio has Choice Band or not. So, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not 100% sure about whether Dugtrio having Choice Band affects the damage. I think that is true. Now, my Zapdos is dead, so it's not going to contribute. If I had a status Pokemon on my team, that wouldn't contribute either. So if that Celebi was still toxic, it wouldn't be contributing to this. And that would suck because that's a 100 base power attack from the Celebi, which is not bad at all. Starmie is going to be the weak link here. I think it only has 60 base power, but everything else on the team is so strong it doesn't really matter. But because Celebi has Natural Cure, it doesn't really mind taking a status move from Swampert, that Toxic, because it'll just cure it as I switch to Dugtrio. And now I'm getting 5 hits on my Beat Up, so let's see how much damage that does. 15 is probably the Tyranitar, it's got the most base attack, and that does a lot, and that Ice Beam does nothing. Now, I have a pretty bulky Dug, but, I mean, I didn't think it was that bulky. I'm questioning if this Blissey has any special attack investment, actually. But I do manage to get that Blissey elimination. I figure there's not much sense in just sacking the Dugtrio to this Aerodactyl. It might be useful at taking on the Swampert. So I am going to switch to Tyranitar, sort of anticipating a a double edge click because I feel like that would make the most sense. But they do call me out and go for Earthquake, which, all right, fair enough. But I can go to Celebi, who's going to eat this Earthquake up. And now I'm going to go for Leech Seed and catch any number of great switch-ins here. Oh, in fact, I'll just go for Recover. But that's fine because I'm faster than this Gengar, and I do have Psychic as my move of choice, so that's going to kill. Crit did not matter. Now Aerodactyl is in, threatening to go for Hidden Power. I am now going to sack the Dugtrio, as this gives me a pretty good opportunity to go to Swampert. Should just go for a Water-type move here. Instead, I'm going to go for Ice Beam. I might not actually, if this is my CursePert set though, I keep saying water move. I might not have, no, I think I am running Hydro Pump on my CursePert set, so never mind. I've run 2 different CursePert sets, one with Hydro Pump and a lot of special attack investment, and then one that has Rest, and Ice Beam is just a coverage move. In any case, I can switch to Starmie here, who's going to be very threatening to the Swampert. This Aerodactyl cannot switch in. I think this was before I decided I wanted Modest Starmie with Surf, so that's actually not modest damage there. I take a lot from that Earthquake, but Swampert is basically forced to click Earthquake again. I can switch to Celebi here, and I will go for Leech Seed. This is going to be Big Chip on the Aerodactyl. Still has not taken a direct attacking move, it's just been taking Leech Seed damage. I will go to Tyranitar now because I feel like Tyranitar is not really that good into either Aerodactyl or Swampert in this endgame, unless I can get it in on exactly a double edge from Aerodactyl. I get a nice Focus Punch on the Swampert, and because it's not a because it is probably a minus speed Swampert, I'm able to finish it off with Hidden Power Bug. My opponent will go for a Rock Slide. It was the only move that possibly could win them the game from here, but my Swampert's very healthy. They would have had to get a lot of hacks to win. And I managed to get to a very respectable 1366 on ladder. I lost a lot of elo on my main account trying to get a ladder challenge that I was not successful at doing. That's why I'm lower, but it does make finding games a little easier, so I'm not going to complain about that. And that was still a pretty good showcase of what Celebi can do on this team, so I'm going to use it anyway. Zapdos versus Lead Hariyama. Ooh, this is where that Hariyama calc is going to come into play, maybe. I do just go for Thunderbolt as I get knocked off. I do get a nice paralysis on the Hariyama. I am going to Baton Pass, though, assuming that my opponent will switch. Swampert, I have Celebi for that, threatening it out. But they don't know I don't have a Grass-type move, but I'm just going to go for Leech Seed. I miss against Skarmy, which is not good. I am going to Baton Pass now, and I'm going to get my Dugtrio in. So, this Tyranitar, if it has Bulk, it should live. It does have Bulk, but it's a Pursuit Tar. So that means it can't kill my specially defense-invested Dugtrio. So I do manage to get the Tar elimination there. If I had Weather Clear, this would be kind of cool, but I don't. But this team is not super-duper bad into Sand. The only thing that really doesn't love the Sand is Zapdos, but everything else is fine. And even Zapdos is okay in Sand. It likes getting that chip on things like the Hariyamas of the world that could try to heal out of 2-hit KO range, or 3-hit KO range, as it were. I am going to Rapid Spin. I don't anticipate that there's a Gengar lurking in the back, but even if there is, I think it would be a little bit risky for them to go for that. Unfortunately, because my Zapdos has been knocked off, I'm going to be taking a lot of damage from this Sand, and that Ice Beam is going to put me into Sand range there. If I had my leftovers, I would have just survived, in fact, because I would have gotten an extra turn of not taking Sand damage. I will go to my BKC Tara as they go to Skarm. They're going to opt to get a Toxic as I go for a Focus Punch, which does a lot of damage to the Skarm. I'm anticipating that the Skarm does not have Drill Peck, so I'm just going to Focus Punch again. Alright, they Protect, which is going to get some chip on my Tyranitar, but I'm just going to Focus Punch again. What's your switch in? You don't have one. No Gengar, I'm just hard reading that. You can't fit it on this team. Now I'm going to Celebi, who's going to eat up this Toxic from the Swampert. And I can get a Leech Seed off if I so choose. I do, but the Swampert protects. I think I'm just going to go for another Leech Seed. Why not? As they reveal Lastmon Jirachi, but instead I'm actually going to Baton Pass, and I get Dugtrio in, who barely survives that spikes. And I go for a nice Earthquake that does a lot of damage. But because this Jirachi, I assume, has a little bit of HP or defense investment, it lives and goes for Hidden Power, presumably Grass. But that's fine because this is Starmie range. Goes for Protect. I will go for Thunderbolt because this was in Thunderbolt range. I think now it is a roll for Thunderbolt to kill. So I'm going to opt to go for Hydro Pump, which catches the Swampert switching in. It's not so bad for me. I'm going to go for Rapid Spin to help myself out in the end game. As they go for Surf, I assume they're Mono Pert and they can't hit me. I'm going to save that Starmie because it could be useful against Hariyama or Jirachi or a weakened Swampert in the end game. I will go for a Leech Seed straight up in case Jirachi or Hariyama want to switch in. I get a Toxic for my troubles, though. I will go for Recover here. Jirachi is in. It's threatening to heal up a lot, actually. And it seems to be a Wish Protect Jirachi with Hidden Power Grass for some reason. Kind of an interesting set. They are going to try to Wish and pass that to Swampert. I'm going to go to my own Swampert here, just to alleviate the Toxic damage on my Celebi. Switch into another Toxic from the Swampert. They're going to Protect. I'm just going to Recover. Let's see what happens going forward here. I get a Leech Seed on this Jirachi, which is nice because it can't simply just Protect, Chip Heal all the way back up. It goes for Wish as I go for Baton Pass, and I'll be going to my Tyranitar to get it a little bit of healing, as well as I'm threatening now to get a fat Earthquake on the Jirachi. It opts to go for Protect here. I went for Focus Punch just in case they would switch to Hariyama or Swampert, but now I can just go for Earthquake. That's a little bit of chip on Swampert, not really that much, to be honest. I have to go back to Celebi. They're going to Surf, not do much, and I think this is going to be, yeah, where my opponent opts to forfeit. I don't think that they should have forfeited so soon. They say that they can't break my Celebi, which is basically true, but I also can't really break their Swampert that effectively. I'm going to need to get a lot more chip, put it into range of either my Starmie or my Swampert before I can really effectively do much, because I don't really want to take a Toxic on Pert, and I don't want to just sack my Starmie either. So, yeah. Not fantastic. And, like, this Tyranitar needs to stay up while this Jirachi is alive, because now that it is revealed what is presumably Hidden Power Grass, I can't very effectively take it on with my own Swampert. So I think it was a little bit of a premature forfeit for my opponent. They could have played it out, but I understand not wanting to play out a long, drawn-out game on ladder. Me personally, I play it out because I'm a sicko and I just love playing long Pokemon games, but if you're not that way inclined, I understand. Now we're up against Ohei Moto. Oje? I don't know. Lead Skarmory into Zapdos, exactly what you don't want to see with your Skarmory. And they're going to pivot to Swampert and then double to Zapdos as I go for Baton Pass and get my Tyranitar in on their Zapdos. I go for Focus Punch because I'm like, this Zapdos is not staying in. And I get a fat Focus Punch on this Pert. And that looks like it's an offensive Pert with that kind of damage, I think. Or maybe like some weird Def Pert. In any case, though, I am going to switch to Celebi because if it is an offensive Pert, it is probably faster than my Tyranitar. because a lot of these offensive perts do run speed. Although some people contend that you should actually just run HP investment rather than speed investment with your off pert. I think that's a reasonable take. But Celebi is a good switch in either way. I can get a Leech Seed off on this Skarmory. And then it goes for a hard Drill Peck as I Baton Pass. I don't think that that's a great play from the Skarmory. I think you just get your Spike there. What if I had Magneton on this team? I mean, it's not a super duper common structure for Magneton to be on, with like a BKC Tar and a Zapdos, but it's not impossible. And even if I don't have that, I am going to be able to Baton Pass to my Zapdos. But because of my Celebi's like strange speed stat, I do know that this is a max speed Skarmory, or at least a 252 speed Skarmory. So it's YOLO Skarm, which means that it has no special defense investment, which means that my Swampert in the back is going to be very dangerous for this Skarmory to switch into. So that's good to know. My Zapdos is certainly going to outspeed, so I can just go for a Thunderbolt. But because it is a YOLO Skarm, it should be taking a lot from my HP Ice. And the Swampert is in 2-hit KO range from HP Ice as well. So I can just go for the HP Ice. They're going to switch to Zapdos, which is not taking that HP Ice very well. I am a max speed Zapdos as well. I'm going to take the Speed Tie there, and I win it. Now Jolteon is in, clicks Thunderbolt for a good amount of damage, but I'll Thunder Wave that, and now you're screwed. You don't have speed control against my Zapdos team. I will Baton Pass to Celebi, who should take a Thunderbolt very well. Even though it gets a crit, I am fine. And if this is HP Ice, whatever, I'll just recover. And they reveal Banette. So now this is looking like Jimothy Cool's team, but this Banette does not have leftovers. What's going on with that? I will go to Tyranitar, and because I'm bulky Tyranitar, I will live HP fighting as I go for Rock Slide, and Banette dies. Banette, such a good Pokemon. Very, very, very good. I don't know. And then this Swampert goes for Hidden Power. I don't know what Hidden Power that is. It could be Bug, it could be Grass. Probably Grass, I would think, with Surf. But, alright, whatever. You've revealed that you are not a very bulky Swampert through the course of this game, so I will just go to Dugtrio, Trap, and kill that. As this Skarmory finally gets a Spike on turn 17. Shoutouts to my Draft League. But I can just go for Thunderbolt. I figured that Jolteon would be the switch here, but Jolteon was already at full HP, so it's like not that big a deal for me to Thunderbolt into it, I don't think. And because it's paralyzed, I can simply just Baton Pass. So here's the thing. Dugtrio could be a good Baton Pass target here. Because this Jolteon, it might be HP Grasp. The only move it might have to hit my Zapdos is Thunderbolt. And if I pass to Dugtrio on the turn that Jolteon goes for Thunderbolt, then Jolteon is trapped and removed. But if it's HP Ice Jolteon, it should be clicking that because it can do a good amount of damage. It will kill my Zapdos, and it stops my Dugtrio from switching in. With the Spike down, even though I do have some Spadef investment, I don't know for sure if I can live the HP Ice. I do have Spadef investment, but if this Jolteon has max special attack, it might be able to kill me. So I'm going to play it safe and go to Celebi, as this Jolteon gets full parried anyway, so maybe I should have went to Doug. Hindsight's 20/20 though. I will get a Leech Seed off as this Jolteon goes for Substitute. So maybe it was trying to get a Substitute all along versus my Dugtrio. Then I would not have been able to effectively trap it because it could Baton Pass, take that Substitute, and then go into, or take the hit on the Substitute, Baton Pass, go to Skarmory, get another Spike. Probably going to do that anyway, or try to do that. But at the very least, that Skarmory will be taking this Leech Seed as well. I am going to opt to Baton Pass after that Jolteon gets full parried, assuming that we're going to see a switch. And we do manage to see a switch to the Skarmory here. Because this is YOLO Skarm, I'm going to do a lot of damage with Surf. They go for Drill Peck for, okay, I mean a decent amount of damage themselves, but whatever. Surf is just going to sweep through this team now. They actually have last one Magneton, so I don't think this is exactly Jimothy Cool's team. But I can go to Dugtrio, who will trap and remove this Magneton. They went for Hidden Power Fire, I guess, assuming that I would switch to Celebi. It still would have done nothing, but alright. And now I can just go to Zapdos, who should outspeed and kill this YOLO Skarm. So, yeah. If you're going to steal Jim's structure like this, I don't think that Magneton is really fitting on this team, especially when you have like an offensive Swampert. I think you should do Hydro Pump on this Pert, and then this Magneton should be something like probably Tyranitar. I think that's what Jim's team is with Tyranitar here. Might not be. I don't know. I'm not like as big a gym connoisseur as I ought to be, but in any case, I said it for you, Zets. Banette is bad. Don't do this. That has been the game with Celebi. I kept it down to 3 because I knew I was going to be yapping a lot in the early parts of this. As we get into other Celebi sets and future Celebi videos, I'll probably cut down on some of the discussion and ask you to watch my previous Celebi video, this one right here, and then we'll get more games in, because Celebi's such a fun Pokemon to play with. Can do so many things. I didn't even pair it with Aerodactyl, which is like its butt buddy. If you're a fan of Fredazi teams, Aerobi, he has done a lot of work to make Aerobi a very strong archetype in the tier. So, even though I think he's denouncing it right now, but you can't fool me, Fredazi. All right, I know it's there. It's a good team. Don't doubt yourself. But that's been Celebi. And I hope that that was a fun sort of foray into what Celebi can do, and more particularly what it can enable for a certain team to do, especially one with like Dugtrio on it like this. Very potent. I think this will be very good. So enjoy on ladder with this, and enjoy not having to deal with Speed Pass if you're one of those people who hated it. And if you're one of those people who liked it, well, you know, ADV is still a fun tier, and I hope that you can still have fun even if your favorite strategy is not allowed anymore. But yeah, that's it. We'll see you all for the next video.